It's a special meeting of the Jenks Aquarium Authority. Today is Tuesday, June 4th of 2024. I can't believe it's June. Time is 5 p.m. My name is Corey Box. I will be your chair for tonight's meeting. We're going to call to order, and Mr. Macy, if you can please verify our attendance, please, sir.
Murray? Here. Griffin? Here. OJ?
Here.
Burrow? Brown?
Here.
Montgomery? Here. Chair Box?
Here. Item number 1 under tonight's general business is the consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval of our consent agenda. I think you guys all know the drill here. If there's anything you would like to pull for further review, you may do that at this time. If not, we can hear a motion to approve item 1 as in its entirety as it's presented.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you both very much. Motion second. Item 1. Let's vote, please.
Murray?
Yes.
Griffin? Yes. OJ?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Montgomery?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes, sir. Item 2, obviously we'll pull. Moving on to item 3, lessor content to collateral assignment of the lease for the Holiday Inn Express property. We're on page 113 of this packet agenda, and Mrs. Nolan, I believe you have the floor. Good evening.
Mr. Chairman and trustees, this document is, well, I'll go back. If you may recall, back in September of 2023, we approved the assignment of the lease from Leisure Hospitality, who was the previous lessor, to CBM Developments LLC, which is the new holder of the lease for the Holiday Inn Express. This document is essentially completing their paperwork for their financing for that sale of the lease. They got a loan from the Small Business Administration, and they require a collateral assignment of the lease as part of their financing. So this is completing the transaction that we approved back in September.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Nolan. Is there any questions or comments from the trustees on my right? Okay, very well. Any questions from you two gentlemen? Mr. Murray.
I would assume that the lease is basically just a transfer word for word from what it was to the same company that's taking it over. Did they change a lot, or?
Not a lot. That assignment is in here.
Let me just I think I can summarize a little bit.
Okay.
There were some things they wanted that the Small Business Administration required that bluntly, I think they would have had the rights to enter bankruptcy anyway. And so we've agreed to some of those. It doesn't really change the position of the parties. There were a couple of things they originally wanted that when we OAF, we looked at it and said, no, we're not going to agree to that. We're not going to give up the rights that we have in this area. And that's now gone. Their request to change that is gone.
Okay.
In this. So that's just kind of a quick and dirty.
No, that's fine.
Right, yeah, we made sure that we retain the right to approve any subleases. I added the statement that we retain all of our rights to the original lease, except for as expressly waived here, so.
All right,
Not
thank you.
significant changes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Last call from anyone. Questions, comments from Mrs. Nolan? All right, thank you so much. Then we can entertain a motion on this item, please.
A move to approve.
Second.
Thank you both. Proper motion and a second. Item 3, let's vote, please.
Murray?
Yes.
Griffin? Yes. OJ?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Montgomery?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes, sir. Item 4 is an agreement for catering and concessions at the Oklahoma Aquarium by and between the Jenks Aquarium Authority and the ExpoServe Management Corporation, also known as Catering by Party Serve. We're on page 126. Good evening, Mr. Alexopoulos. And I still have your belt and your mask, but might need them again, though.
Oh, yeah.
Unless
okay.
if you're going on a
Working
dive
your
trip, let me
swimming
know.
Pool? On your swimming pool?
I just can't stay underwater long enough to
Yeah.
scrub, so I use the weight belt, and I just stand there till I pass out while I'm,
Yeah. Well, I have I was doing that to fix a light, but I used the whole dive thing.
I tried using a garden hose.
Oh, no, don't ever do that.
Well, I kept swallowing water, and I
Yeah.
got sick, so I decided.
You can pass out because your gases don't escape, so you're just re-inhaling. That's why like snorkels can't be more than like 3 feet. So, but anyhow, just
Well,
so
maybe
you
that's
know,
why I got sick.
we don't want you dying on us.
That'd be an odd story.
We'll need you around for a little
Mayor
longer.
found dead floating in
Yeah,
3 feet of
and-
water.
And plus that stuff
the
you
heck
see
did
in the
that happen?
movies where they're always breathing through the reed and hiding, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Physically, you can't do
They
it.
did it in Vietnam. The Navy SEALs did it.
Yeah, it's a rebreather, but not in a good way. Okay, thank you. Expo Serve has been a great partner with us. They've, you know, we've worked very closely together for years now. I think the contract is quite generous. Anything we have needed in the past, they've bent over backwards, and so have we. So it's a good partnership. We're basically keeping the contract as is, and we've cleaned it up because there was a lot of redundancy in it and just things that just weren't pertinent anymore. So Teresa and Courtney streamlined it. But other than that, we would like to extend the contract for 5 years, ending at the end of year 2008. And that's pretty much it.
So what contract, what terms have we been under since the expiration date?
3 years.
No, since the expiration date, which,
Oh, it's been
6
month
months
to
ago?
month.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
All
been
right.
month to month.
All right.
And
I'm sorry, Kenny, when did it the
Technically-
main term expired when?
it expired end of 2020.
3, December
Oh,
31st.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah, and so they handle, you know, our catering as well as the cafe. And so, no, they've been they've been really helpful in, you know, getting us a better contract through Pepsi. You know, Party Serve alerted us when we were dealing with their arrival, and that we had a contract with, and it was less than ideal, and they really pointed out some things that were not in our favor, and it was very helpful. And so Sigmund, who owns the company, is, you know, very knowledgeable and extremely helpful. So it's just been a great partnership. They have monthly meetings with our staff, our event staff, so they kind of work in unison as a team. And they have a lot of experienced sales staff, too, that help us. If we have a client that's just a little unsure about things, they jump in and kind of help push it through. So, yeah, it's a great partnership.
All right, thank you, Kenny. Any questions from the trustees on my right here for Kenny? Well, we have a gentleman on my left, Mr. Murray.
What caused or why the delay from end of 2023 till now?
It was my fault. I basically failed to realize that the contract was up.
So you fell on the sword, in other words, but I mean, that's okay.
Yeah, that
No.
was completely on my.
So, not seeing every word, and I guess so, with it expiring, it's just a continuum of their service
Right.
without having a contract until we were able to settle, so that's not a big issue then, right?
Right. That's basically, yeah, and we have a similar situation right now with Pepsi. We're gonna need to renew. Now, that one I have known about, but we've been kind of going back and forth, and so we've been in discussions for about a month now. So we'll be bringing that here as well, but that one hasn't been forgotten. But this one, I literally forgot about it.
Okay, so it wasn't anything with language or deciding a better contract or this or that?
No,
It's just
sir.
kind of slipped through the cracks,
Slipped
which
through,
happens,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the cracks.
Okay, well, as long as they didn't mind continuing and
No.
not, saying, oh, wait a minute, we're going to move elsewhere because you didn't want to talk to us, so.
No,
they're good.
nothing like
Well,
that. And honestly, they forgot a little bit too, so.
Oh, okay.
but, so they did remind me, and that's how that came about. So.
Well, Ziggy stays busy at the fairgrounds, so I'm sure it would easy to forget for him.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And again, it's just, we've been doing business together for so long that it's, it's, better, lack of better term, we kind of have our guard down. We mesh really well, so,
Good, okay, thank you, Kenny.
thank you.
Nothing further for Mr. Algazopoulos. We can
Make a motion that we accept the new agreement with the Expo Square Management Corporation, doing business as Party Serve.
Second.
Okay. Expo Serve? Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. We have a proper motion and a second on item number 4. Let's vote, please.
Murray,
Yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Montgomery,
Yes.
Chairbox.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Alexopoulos, what you got for us?
All right. Our last quarter has been great with the aquarium. Our revenue was ahead of last year and all years prior. So it's really exciting. This year, we're neck and neck with last year. This quarter that just started, we're neck and neck, so we're doing well. We're really excited about the outlet mall opening. I think that, it remains to be seen, but just even just conservatively, I think we're gonna notice a boost for sure. Mermaid's Night Out event was the most successful to date. We actually had a 270% increase in attendance. We've changed some things around. We have a new events staff, new events crew that has a lot of experience, and they brought a lot of good ideas to the table. One of the things was, hey, why aren't we allowing kids to come to this? Because it was kind of meant for an adults thing. So I said, that's a great question. I was under the impression that we were doing this for adults. So we opened it up to kids, and that was a hit. Our digital marketing specialist, Lolly, she was really good about getting the word out, so they worked really well together, and it was a hit. So now we have something to truly build on and believe in. It's not just kind of a rerun over and over again. So I think, so the staff's really excited with that. Boomfest, we're working on right now. There's some challenges with the construction of the shark quarantine being where it is where people used to be on the lawn. And there's the construction fences in the way, so I'm working with Greg Helms to see if what it would take to temporarily move the fence to basically block off people from walking into the construction site, but not be completely contained around the playground. And we're going to move the crowds further south in the lawn. So we do have a plan. And line of sight. Honestly, even when that shark quarantine is there, line of sight. There's trees behind it that are higher, and the fireworks truly are up here. It just seems like it would be, but people were right behind the playground. And their only complaint was, are y'all going to turn these lights off? Of course, it was in the plan, the lights turn off and the fireworks start. And nobody complained about not being able to see. The problem is the real estate that it takes up. But I think, it just kind of, it's a challenge for us to just start making the south part a little bit more developed, a little bit more polished. And that way we can continue on with the event and it doesn't take away from it.
Kenny, have you guys also looked at having some security presence inside
Oh, yeah.
the construction fence? Because we've got enough knuckleheads to.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I have not, but I
Yeah,
will.
there are enough
That's a great idea.
knuckleheads that might do something and.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a great idea. We'll do that. But that we always do have security everywhere else, but that's a great point. So does anybody have any questions about thus far? Okay. Sharklahoma is underway, and the Dive of the Bull Shark contest will kick off soon. I don't have the exact date on that yet. The shark quarantine, what we're calling the Aquatic Research Center, it's been challenging lately because of the rain. It's kind of a swamp back there right now, and every time it starts drying out, they start moving ahead, and then here comes the monsoon. So, it is what it is, but they are right now doing the underground plumbing for both our filtration as well as municipal plumbing. So that's what's going on right now. They poured concrete for one pit that we use for our water reclaim, and then they poured the containment for our saltwater mixing. And so it's moving along, and our team is constantly checking, making sure all the underground pipes are where they're supposed to be, because you don't want to figure that out after they pour the concrete. And there was some that weren't, but no problem, that got rectified. Amazon exhibit is still down. Everybody knows which one that is, with the iguanas in the trees in the second gallery. So there's a cracked, one of the pop-up tubes is broken, so it's leaking, and so the culprit was a huge arapaima. It's a huge muscular fish that we had in there that we removed, and I was like, what we need to do is do these tree roots in front of this pop-up, that way the arapaima can't hit it, and it's going to have reinforced steel and concrete in it. And then, so one night he decided to jump 8 feet in the air and then just spearhead right between those roots and break it anyway. So we're replacing, it's already been replaced. Now we've got to finish the patch job, so we anticipate refilling it and putting animals back into, there are some animals in it, we're able to refill it some, but it should be complete and back online in 3 weeks is the schedule. And then we're also ramping back up on replacing all the expansion joints on all the penetrations, the large diameter pipes of the shark exhibit, and replacing valves. It's a big job, but it's an ongoing thing. It's going to probably take a year here and there. I think, the bricks for the Circle of Honor and Alligator Alley, the engraving company finally got back to the contractor, so they are being engraved right now. When they get them engraved, they're going to come install them, and so it's just a few weeks out. And then at that point, they're going to reassess the plants in the pollinator garden because they built that. Some of them are dead. They're going to replace them. We've identified low spots where water is pooled and why we're pretty sure why those plants died in that section. So they're going to have to build up the earth there, and they have no problem with that. They've been really good working with them, no issues at all. And that's where we're at. Any questions? Or?
Thank you, sir.
All
Anything
right.
else for Mr. Alexopoulos?
Okay, thank you very
All
much.
right, have a good evening, sir. All right, any last comments from any trustees before we close?
I did have a question.
Mr. Montgomery?
I think I've missed one JAA meeting in the recent months when we were on vacation, but have we had any discussions here about that proposed trail extension that the city is approving, going to look at the engineering dollars for tonight? Have we talked about that at the JAA at all? No?
Not my recollection.
Okay. Yeah, because, just as a side comment, so I won't make it later today, that extension is either going to use OAF-owned land or OAF-owned land that's leased to the aquarium. And that is going to create some real interesting situations, because we need to secure the playground, we need to secure the back part of the whole aquarium. And with the low water dam, we don't really know what's going to happen and how we want to do things there. So it just seems like we ought to be talking about that. It feels a little bit of chicken and the egg thing, where you may do the engineering, but what you do in that area may or may not fit, given where we may head with stuff that the aquarium wants to do with some of the land back there.
I agree, and I don't think we even have a concept plan yet. I mean, we're still in discussions about, it's not just the aquarium, it's also the Riverwalk, where is the trail going to be? And even north of the Riverwalk, is the trail going to be along the river? Is it going to be along the levee? And so I think there's a lot
Okay.
that we don't know yet. And so I agree that we need to have that conversation, and I apologize that we haven't had it yet, but I think that we don't know exactly where we're going to propose the trail.
So is that going to be part of what the engineering process is?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes. Like
that
where-
wasn't clear when I
Like
read the
literally,
document.
where are we going to put it? I mean,
Yeah.
it started out with, we're going to put it on top of the levee. Well, it's probably more trouble than it's worth to put it on top of the levee, so maybe we won't. and maybe we'll put it at the toe of the levee. And then we had Stewart Price and Price Family Properties want to put in a apartment complex north of the Riverwalk. We had extensive conversations with them and their planner about, is it going along the levee? Is it going along the river? Where's it going? And it's difficult because we don't, and even south of the Turnpike, we continue to have conversations with people that want to develop east of Simon about what's the height. And so I agree, we could have had a conversation, but we just honestly don't know where this thing is going and what makes the most sense. But we can certainly have that conversation at sometime this summer.
Yeah, because just to remind people, the land that is, the land that's leased to JAA, the aquarium's on, probably that I'm going to guess somewhere around 100 feet from the river is actually not leased to JAA and is owned by the OAF. And we own the land all the way to the middle of the river through that whole area. So, yeah, and my guess is that's most likely where you would be thinking about putting something. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Last call. Very well. Time is 5:25 PM. JAA is adjourned.
I didn't want to have to say that at a council meeting.
Oh, that makes sense.
Well, because if you look at
Everyone, and welcome back to Jenks City Hall. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Jenks City Council. Today is Tuesday, June 4th of 2024. The time is 6 p.m. My name is Corey Box, and I will be your chair for this night's proceedings. We will be underway with the verification of our attendance. Mr. Macy.
Emmons. Here. OJ.
Here.
Murray. Here. Brown. Here. Klein. Present. Short. Mayor Box.
Here. We normally have a pastor here for tonight's invocation. We do not, so if you will join me in prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to serve. It really is an honor and a blessing to do this, and we thank you for the residents that hold us accountable, that help us, that give us ideas. We are thankful that this community cares so much about this city. And we pray, Lord, that you give us wisdom to do the right things, to find the better ideas, to continue to work harder and harder and harder to make this the best place to live, work, play, and everything it is that we do. We pray for your safety for our city. We pray that you place a hedge of protection around us in this next year as there's some dramatic changes coming to our city. And Lord, we pray that you just give us the wisdom to manage this growth, all this growth that we have before us, and give us the grace, Lord, to deal with the fact that we may make mistakes along the way. We do all of these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Let's pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We have an animal welfare spotlight tonight, and coming forward with an animal in his pocket, Mr. Fred Reed. How are you, sir?
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Council. So it's not always dogs. Oh, occasionally we do have cats and various other things. So I'll let her introduce her. She says her name is Dana. She says she's about 7 weeks old. What else? She says she was tossed out on the side of Highway 75, and some kind soul scooped her up and brought her to safety. And what's that? What? Okay, she says she's had her first round of shots and has tested negative for those nasty cat diseases and is ready for somebody to take her home and give her a safe indoor home.
All right.
So if anybody out there would like to meet Dana or any of her adoptable dog friends, not really friends, but you know, they can, as always, they can call us at 918-299-6311. Email animalcontrol@jenksok.org, and what? And yeah, and find us on Facebook, Jenks Animal Welfare.
I can give you about a minute to make your rounds through the audience if you want to do your thing. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Reed. We appreciate that. We're going to move on to citizen or public comments. If you are here tonight and you would like to take an opportunity to address this council, you may do so. We just ask that you keep your comments to somewhere near 3 minutes, and as long as your comments are not related to one of tonight's agenda items, we would welcome you. Anyone? All right. I figured if I stared at you long enough, you might make that move. So, sir, here's how this works. You introduce yourself, you give us your address, and tell us what's on your mind.
Okay. My name is Nick Sweet. I'm from Troop 185, and my address is 11738 South Redbud Street. So I'm here today because I'm working towards my Eagle rank, and to do that, you need to do an Eagle project. And that is a service project that benefits your community in some way to give back. And so if anybody has any ideas or any good organizations to do work for, I would always appreciate some helpful insight.
Yeah. All right, sir. Thank you very much. And if anybody has a piece of land, an idea, and you can help Mr. Sweet, I have his cell phone number. You can call me at 918-857-9922. Call City Hall and ask them. Tell them you want to get in touch with our local Troop 185 for that gentleman who has a Eagle project, and I will make sure that you get in touch with him. Did you see this guy right here? He's an Eagle Scout. Anybody else? Weren't you one? No? Anybody else in the room an Eagle Scout? Just you, Craig? No, there you go. Hash it out. Best of luck to you, sir. Anyone else, citizens or public comment? Thank you. We'll close the floor, move on to tonight's general business. Item number 1 is the consideration and appropriate action of our consent agenda. If any council member would like to pull any item, whether it be A through H from tonight's consent agenda, you may do that now with a proper second, or we can enact a single motion to approve them as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to address item F, not for opposition, but for comment. So I don't know if we need to pull it for that. Make a motion to do that?
So you're making a motion to pull item F?
Yes.
Okay.
Just for comment.
I second.
All right, very well. Anyone else? Okay, so let's go ahead and vote on approving the consent agenda with the exception of item F.
Clarification, Counselor Brown, was your motion to approve everything
I'm
else?
sorry. Go ahead.
It was to pull item F. Well, I guess we could make the motion to, make the motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item F. Yeah.
I second as well.
Good call, Mr. Macy. We have a proper motion and a second to approve item number 1 with the exception of F. Let's vote, please.
Emmons,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Brown. Yes. Klein.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, sir. Going on to item number 2, we'll go back to letter F. Approve the final plat for Ragland Plaza amended, general location being east of 9th Street between Main Street and East B Street. Counselor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason I wanted to pull item F was just as kind of a public, make the public aware of this particular issue. Seven Brew has had interest in this property for quite some time. The matter's come up before council on a few occasions, but what the part that I felt was most valuable to the community is that in this particular item, the city has obtained a right-of-way on the property for a right turn lane only that will help eliminate the stacking that we typically have on the bridge for traffic. I know that the interest is there within the community that we address traffic and infrastructure. And with this going in, we're going to be able to address widening of that right turn lane for Main Street as well as 9th Street going north. So this going in is actually going to help eliminate, not only bring a new business in, but eliminate some of the traffic issues that we typically have at the intersection. So it's a really good thing, and it's not costing us anything for the city. Did I get that right?
I would say what you just said is we just got the right-of-way we needed at $0. I think we made a smart decision on that no a couple months ago, but I think you summed it up really well. Thank you for the detail. Anything else, Mr. Brown?
Nothing else, thank you.
All right, I guess we can go ahead and receive a motion to approve item F back on that consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve item F.
Second.
Thank you both. We have a proper motion, and second item F of our consent agenda. Let's vote, please.
Emmons,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, sir. Item number 3 is approve the purchase of real properties owned by the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, generally located near Polecat Creek, and authorizing the city manager to execute the real estate purchase agreement. If you're following along electronically or via paper, we are on page 129 of this packet, and we welcome Mr. Shrout.
Mayor and all members of council, this is an exciting item we have on our agenda. The city has been working for probably at least a decade to try to get access to this 400 acres that is essentially south of Main Street, west of the Turnpike, all the way to Highway 75. The Turnpike Authority has decided to surplus this property. They had it appraised. The 414 acres was appraised at $406,000. That comes to a little over 2 pennies per square foot, which is quite a deal for land in Jenks. This is part of the reason that staff recommended purchasing the ranch was the only way to access this property via land without a bridge was through the ranch property. And so this 414 acres could be a public park, but more importantly, we would control it and have it be green space forever. We don't currently know what our plans are, other than at least a nature trail. And so we would recommend that the city council approve this appropriation. The appropriation would come from the City Capital Reserve Fund for Parks and Grounds. We have about $3.4 million in that account, and this is the very reason we have those funds in reserve.
Thank you, Mr. Shrout. We can open up for questions or comments to council on my right. Turn on your microphone and we'll be recognized. Mr. Brown.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I appreciate the information on the City Capital Reserve Fund. That was one of the questions I had, was which fund that was coming from, and we did get the balance on that fund from finance, so that helps. Thank you, Tara, for that. One other comment that I'd like to make is, since we have to decide what we're going to do with the property, I think it would be good if we establish a committee, determine hold, develop, lease, and then just kind of a subsequent question as to whether or not, if we do make the acquisition of this, if we will need to take a look at the comprehensive plan and revise that, since that'll be new property coming into the city inventory.
It's within the existing comprehensive plan as, I believe, parks and open space, because it is floodplain or floodway. So it has been contemplated, and I think that the proposed use being some sort of nature trail falls within the proposed use, but we haven't, we don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, so.
I think we'll need to identify it, since it's going to be new. We didn't have the ability to make that decision before, just to see if there is a comp plan amendment that we might need to make on that. And I think that was actually the only question I had about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anyone council on my left? Mr. Murray.
I know that we had talked about looking at some of the land from the Turnpike Authority to, I guess, supplement, augment our purchase of the land of the ranch. I didn't realize that we were going to be encompassing so much land with this. I can see where part of it could be development, or can it be developed along 75 for, can we in turn, and we're not in it for the profit, but I guess to do something with it other than just sitting there?
No, so I think the blue is what is considered a federal wetland, and the yellow is not, but it's floodway or floodplain. And so the whole idea with this property is to somehow, if we can, connect, obviously you see there's a significant amount of property east of Elwood, but if we can somehow connect that property to the land that is along Highway 75, we could have a huge park and open space. And when I say park, I think the vision is something that is largely a nature preserve that citizens could access, and I think it would be a huge, a regional, if not multi-state draw in terms of visitors coming to use this 400 acres of park space. So the idea was not to develop any of this, but to leave it some sort of like nature trail, nature park.
Okay, so in essence, we're looking at the blue is wetlands and the yellow is not so much wetlands?
It's not wetlands, but it's still floodplain or floodway that you can't build something new on.
Okay, so in buying it, we still have to look at the accessibility of being able to put vehicles into there to do stuff with that, is that correct?
Well, I think the whole idea is it would be a vehicle-free zone similar to something like Turkey Mountain, where you have nature trails where people are walking or riding their bike. But, so I don't know, perhaps if we were putting down a trail, what we've talked about is some sort of natural surface like
Something sustainable.
Yeah.
You
that's-
chop a tree down,
that's
you
not
mulch it, it becomes your
asphalt
trail.
or
Yeah.
concrete. And, I'll go back to a comment that I've made before, is that we have assets that are cash. So we have $3.4 million in this account. And cash is a depreciating asset. And with inflation, 7% a year, that cash is being devalued. And if you own a different asset, such as land in Jenks, where land is always appreciating, and you can get land at a little over 2 pennies per square foot, that's really unheard of. And so even regardless of what we do with it, do I think it's going to appreciate in value? Of course I do. And I think that at least the vision that I heard at the strategic planning conference we had was, we want to have more green space, and I think that this is a perfect opportunity to take advantage of a great deal from the OTA to accomplish that.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I understand. I guess in looking at the fact that the walkability and bicycles and things like that, sometimes people still like to drive to a certain point before they can do that. We've been going through development discussions of getting a 20 or 25 spot parking lot next to what the chamber is using. If we have these lands that we're developing to the north of that, some people are going to want to park somewhere, and we're going to run out of space, obviously. So I guess I'm just trying to put the chicken before the egg, as we talked about earlier, or whatever the case may be. I just want to make sure that if we get into something like this, that we're not hindering ourselves of having people accessing it without totally having to walk 10 miles or the case, whatever. That's what I guess I'm looking at. And then the other thing, and just throwing out, that CR81 that's right next to Phillips 66, is that something that maybe at one point they would have liked to have purchased for any expansion and just never could with the Turnpike Authority? Is that something we could visit with them on? I'm just reaching outside the box.
As it relates to the parking, I believe we have plans for 125 parking spaces at the ranch. So the idea would be, because we're putting the parking west of the existing building at the ranch, that would be the parking lot to access this property as well. And so I know that in our conversations at the Planning Commission and at City Council, we expressed that we don't know what the ultimate use of the ranch property or this property would be. And so that's why we called the parking lot we were planning to build temporary. And so we have 125 spaces that we think can more than likely at the start accommodate some of this, but we would have to do some further investigation about what our plans are for this property, how many people we think will be accessing it, how that access will come, whether it's from Elm Street or 106th, ingress and egress. So there are some questions that we certainly need the answers to, but I think that this would be a great use of the Parks and Rec Capital Reserve Fund. As it relates to CR81,
I don't think there would be any public appetite for ConocoPhillips to grow its footprint, if you remember what we went through many years ago. So I would, no. You and I were the only ones here. Well, yeah. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, just a follow-up comment, question?
Well, another thing to consider, Craig, too, is because I think we want the public's input on this. You made a comment earlier, we wouldn't want anybody to walk really far. It's exactly what I want people to do, is walk really far. If it were me and I'm on a committee, I put as little money into this as possible and make it as safe as possible, and I get people outdoors and walking. That'd be really cool if we could have them on a bike trail. But ultimately, the number one priority is, if it's open to the public, it's got to be safe. Another priority is, shouldn't cost a lot of money. I don't think a huge investment is necessary, but ultimately, when we first heard about this idea a year or so ago, somebody said Turkey Mountain Junior, or miniature Turkey Mountain without the giant hills, of course. And I think that's a perfect leave it the way it is and just make it safer for people to walk around, maybe grab a bike. But we can certainly discuss those things in the future. And I think the number one most important thing to remember, and we haven't talked about it, is if we don't purchase this, somebody else will. And we know how that goes with the ranch property. So I think the very best neighbor to the citizens of Jenks is the city of Jenks.
Well, and there's no
When
other
we can-
access to that
Right,
property
when we can
except through the
control, yeah,
ranch.
when we can control what gets in and out of the neighborhood and who our neighbors are, I think it gives us, when we can manifest our destiny. The bottom line is real estate around here for 2 cents a square foot is insane. So when Secretary Katz met with us 2 years ago, long before we even considered the purchase of the ranch, he made those connections for us, that if that ranch property ever did become available for sale, it'd be pretty advantageous for somebody to go ahead and purchase this OTA surplus property too. So the stars aligned for us pretty well here, but in the future, I see people out there on a bike, walking around and hopefully enjoying the fact that in the middle of a growing city like ours, you can find yourself stuck in the middle of a field and look around and not really know where you're at. I think that would be, for me, that would be a good use of that space, you know. Mayor,
Yeah,
Vice
just-
Mayor, did you have a oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, it was just kind of a follow-up comment. There are five of the properties, or 5 of the plats that are identified here, that are identified for public access. And I guess going back to my comment about a committee evaluating it, fully agree. The citizens are pretty outspoken. I think we all want to see more green space and have it protected. Like you said, maybe a Turkey Mountain too. But there are things that we could potentially look at. Just to give you, for instance, wasn't long ago where we had to address a community meeting at the airport where we were potentially looking at the loss of our golf course. And because of adjacent properties, there may be a place on here where we could have a public golf course, just as a for instance. So that's why I said we could do some analysis to find out, is there something here that can be utilized that would still maintain the green space that might have some other ancillary uses?
Driving range. We could hit balls into the Polecat Creek.
We could hit balls in the Polecat Creek.
Since we lost our other driving range. Good point, Mr. Brown. Anyone else? Council?
Mr.
sir.
Shroud, if you could speak just real quickly to the general public on what the designation of wetlands means for those who may be fearing that apartments and hotels and all kinds of stuff are going to happen. What structures can be built and what structures cannot be built?
So on wetlands, you can't build any structure. And so I think it was maybe in 2016, 2017 that Councilor Lonnie Sims had talked about a bridge, an existing bridge that was an old bridge that was being retired, I think, east of the river in Tulsa. And he talked to OTA about potentially moving that bridge and putting it at Park West over Polecat Creek onto what would be CR 36. And at that time, OTA then deferred to the Corps, and the Corps said you can't build anything in the wetland, any structure. And so that's kind of where we were stymied related to accessing this property, because we originally thought, well, we could have an agreement with OTA where we could have citizens access it, but without being able to put any structure, the only way to access it without a structure would be under the Creek Turnpike at the ranch. And so that was, again, one of the reasons that the ranch was so attractive to us, was it provided the potential for 415 acres of nature preserve. And so you can't build apartments, you can't you can't really build anything other than some sort of just recreational trail. So there would be no commercial development, certainly no multifamily development. It would only be accessible to the public for recreational use.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Anyone else? All right. Okay, if there's nothing further, we're on item number 3. Anyone like to start us off with a motion? Happy to entertain one. No?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you both very much. We have a proper motion and a second on item number 3. Let's vote, please.
Emmons,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Murray.
I'm sorry, but
You can debate, go back and we can debate the motion. Go ahead.
okay, I'm sorry that we had our comment for the council. I didn't know if there was going to be citizen comment in regards to this.
No. Nope. All right. We have a proper motion and a second on item 3. Let's vote, please.
Emmons,
Yes.
Murray,
No.
Ogier,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. Item number 4 is Resolution 834, a resolution amending the annual appropriations by $406,224 in account 635615391, also known as the City Capital Reserve Fund for Parks and Lands for the fiscal year ending June 30th of 2024 for the purchase of land from the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. This is the resolution basically supporting item number 3, if you are still in favor. Any
Motion to
questions?
approve.
Second?
Thank you. We have a proper motion and a second approving Resolution 834 in support of item number 3. Let's vote, please.
Emmons,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Murray,
No.
Brown,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. All right, moving on to item number 5. Item number 5 is a public hearing for the proposed budget for fiscal year 2024 and 2025. We're on page 134. If you are following along, this will be a public hearing, and we welcome for the first time this evening, Mrs. Kilpatrick.
And I might get us started here with,
Mr. Shroud.
so we're in a unique situation in that we're going into a fiscal year with the mall opening in August, and we anticipate that, they're going to do north of $100 million in sales. That's based on their national average in sales per square foot. That's also based on information we have on some of the newest malls they've opened. I think the newest one that was opened was in 2019. And so where we sit right now, we have sales tax that's flat. We saw during the pandemic, sales tax increase significantly. It continued to increase up through probably July or August of this year, or of 2023, and then it's kind of flatlined. So right now, we have flat sales tax, but obviously with $150 million mall development, they anticipate they're going to have 6 to 7 million visitors a year. And so Tara did a great job kind of trying to back out of those numbers using assumptions such as if they open August 15th, we're missing at least 45 days of revenue. We don't know exactly what the occupancy rate will be with the mall. And so she took the square footage of the mall, the averages that we have, tried to be conservative, and then averaged something like 75% occupancy to get to, I think, a sales tax number of $2.5 million. So of the $2.5 million, we collect 3.55% on every single retail sale. 2 pennies of the 3.55 is going to the TIF to repay Simon for public infrastructure investment. So she backed out what would be, I think, 56%, which is 2 divided by 3.55, to get to something like 1.6 million. And so it gets more complicated because of the 3.5%, 0.5% goes to the Vision Extension Fund, which was approved by the voters. The council nor I can do anything with that other than what was approved by the voters, so that we cannot touch. We then have 3 pennies. 2 pennies go to operations. 1 penny goes to capital improvement projects. And because the TIF is reimbursing Simon for public infrastructure, we viewed that 1 penny that goes to capital improvement projects from Simon can go back to the TIF to Simon, and 1 penny from operations will go to Simon. So we still have the 1% going into the general fund. But the real highlights of this year's budget are, we know there's going to be an increased demand on public safety, and the fire chief and administration have done a great job, trying to anticipate this and have applied over the years for, I believe, is it Safer grants? And so we have 6 new positions that we're filling. We will be reimbursed something like $450,000 a year from the federal government for 3 years for those 6 positions. And so we're hiring those 6 positions, and then as it relates to police, we understand that although, we're one of, if not the safest cities in Oklahoma, we are going to have an increase in crime, and I view it as petty crime, just because we're going to have 6 or 7 million people visiting here that don't normally come here. And so we have included 5 full-time police officers as a part of this budget as well. And we're still negotiating our contract with the FOP, but Tara has taken all of this into account as it relates to our budget. We also included a 6% pay increase across the board for all city employees. In the past, I think 2 years, we've done a 3% pay increase and a 3% stipend. This year with the mall opening, we thought it was appropriate to go ahead and do the full 6% as a pay increase. So that's really the highlights, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Shrout. We will go ahead and, Tara's not, anything you want to add?
Well, I ended up going.
You did the whole thing? That was crystal clear, by the way, wasn't it? Everybody got 3 pennies, and then a half of a penny, and then 2% of the other half penny? Yeah, that's how we feel, too.
It's clear in my mind.
It's clear in your mind. We appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mr. Shrout. We'll go ahead and open the questions and comments from the council on my right. If you're willing to speak, please turn your microphone on. We'll be underway. Mr. Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the work that you did on the budget. Going through the budget meeting that we had this past week, it was very clear you did a good job on this. Only question that I had was with the acquisition, the resolution 834, the passage of that, it's going to change the fund balances that you provided with us, and then will there be any other residual impact on any other areas of the budget from that?
On what we just passed?
Yes.
So that will come out of this fiscal year.
Okay.
So that will be encumbered in this fiscal year. It won't show up next fiscal year, other than the fund balance will be reduced by $406,224. But what that will actually show up as an asset on our annual audit that will be seen next year about this time. So, and that's what I kind of talk about related to cash is, when you invest in a capital asset or you invest in land, it's still an asset that's on your books. So you'll see $406,000 less in that account, but you will see $406,000 as an asset in the, I'm guessing, capital side. So it won't be current asset, but it'll be capital asset.
Yeah, I guess was wondering if it was going to show up FY 25, 24, 25.
Yeah, so it will show up in the audit, so it won't show up next year in the budget because it's been appropriated this year. It will show up in the fiscal year 2024 audit as an asset as opposed to cash, as a capital asset as opposed to cash.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anyone else? Very well. Gentlemen, questions? Mr. Murray.
As the biggest proponent of public safety, I'm thrilled that we got a grant for the fire department, and they are adding to that, and they've actually got the academy going and putting them through the paces. I have, for the last couple of years, sent Chief Jackson, Assistant Chief Brown emails about some grant opportunities, and I know that they've sent some people through, so that way they get a better idea of trying to get some of these grants. Unfortunately, like you said, Mr. Shout, that being one of the safest cities, and that goes to prove what our men and women of our department have done. And I appreciate that. 5 officers is definitely better than 1 or 2, or even 3, because that would be 1 per shift. So at least we've got a good start on it, but it hopefully will not end there, and I do definitely want to put for more, because as you say, with however many million coming to our mall, we're going to need everybody that on board, and I know the fire department's there to help, but the police officers will do what they can, and I appreciate that. But they're still looking for grants. I won't stop sending them emails on it, so.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. I'll echo what you said. I've said this before, the number one responsibility we have as a council to our people, in my opinion, is public safety. So this is a fantastic opportunity. It's been a long time. Chief, just nod your head. Well, it's been a long time since we've added a head count, right? Okay, but Simon says it's time to change. Without the mall, maybe we do well with the numbers that we have, but Simon changes everything. So Mr. Murray, you don't think 5 new people need 5 new cars, do they?
5 new people do what?
Need 5 new cars, do they?
Not necessarily new, but we
Look
got to
at
make
my
sure
head.
that everybody's at least driving a car.
Sure. What about an e-bike?
But yes, there
about an
are a
e-bike?
couple that are broke down, but I think we probably would be sacrificial if we didn't have something for them.
How do you feel about an e-bike? Cruising around the mall parking lot on an e-bike.
I suggest maybe a Segway around the mall.
You would lose all street credibility on a Segway. How about an e-bike?
Those are a little cheaper than a car, but I'm just saying, they got to get there.
Okay.
And if they have to
I've been-
transport somebody.
I've been sending the chief pictures and videos of e-bike cop for 2 years, and I think he kind of laughs at me, but 3 years. Yeah, and can any of you ride a bike? Y'all ready? Jump on an e-bike and get after it? Yeah. Melissa's the only hard charger back there. Where's
Mayor, I can just say that when I was on motorcycles, it wasn't a pretty sight handcuffing somebody to the back of my bike. So they probably have to have something.
You went from a
I'm just-
bike to a pink police car.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Good times. Very, very excited to see you guys grow your team. We would love to be a part of any initiation or hazing process that you have in the near future. Is that an amen, Cap McNulty? I see you going like that. You think it's a good idea, right? You don't think I'm watching, do you? Awesome. All right, last call for council. Questions on the budget? All right, we will close the floor to the city council. We're still on item number 5. This is a public hearing. If you would like to make a comments or questions related to item number 5, you're welcome to come forward to do so. I need your name, your address, and I would ask that you keep it to 3 minutes. The floor is open. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Justin Little, 10531 South Coa, Jenks. So I've got a, I guess, question. I've learned how to read P&Ls pretty well. What I'm learning, this is not a P&L, from that perspective of, where you're getting statements coming in, at least from a cash flow perspective. But one of the things I looked at, and I just want to piggyback on what we're talking about from a public safety matter, is most of these, as I'm going through the previous years, specifically around patrol, we're 7 figures under budget. Am I reading that correctly?
When
So,
you say
like, if you
7
go-
figures.
Like if you're on, like on my phone, it's like, say, account number, you've got Uniform Patrol 311. When I look at fiscal year 22-23, or I'm sorry, 23-24, we are sitting at 2.2 million and then we budgeted 3.2.
Well, 23, 24 would be through March 31st, so it's not the full year.
Okay.
So 23 would be July 1st, 2023 through June 30th,
So
2024.
this is with March's numbers, then we don't have.
Yeah, so it would
We
be-
don't have April or May yet.
Well, we do, but when we're
But they're not
putting
in
this
here.
budget together, yeah. So the state requires you to go through December, so the first 6 months, and we try to do at least the first 9 months.
Okay.
And
So I just saw a lot of money look like hanging out.
It's hanging
You know,
out because.
And to Mayor Box's point around with the mall coming, I know that you use some other places. I looked at Allen, Texas, because it was a common size, or I guess equivalent size city in suburbs and things like that. And it was almost, 400% of crime increased when they opened, and then when they came back to the remodel, we saw the same thing again. And that was one of the things I talked to Chief about, whenever we had the meeting over at the Hive, was what are we doing to prepare for that? And then so whenever I see that money hanging out there, I'm like, I appreciate the 5, but is the 5 really gonna be enough? From that standpoint, because they're gonna be caught up all the time. So I didn't know from an appropriation standpoint, is that budget a fair budget for the next year for him?
And historically, I believe the police department, which would be 311 as the budget number, usually comes in expenditure-wise related to planned expenditures 90 to 95%, if not a little bit more. And so I understand what you're saying if you're looking at what we say is FY24 actual, because that's only 9 months. It's not the full 12 months. But something else you'll notice is that I think in the past 10 years, we've budgeted, to make, because we have to have a balanced budget. And so in order to balance the budget, we use something like $250,000, maybe $500,000 from our fund balance, which would be savings, and transfer that into the operating fund to say, this is how we're going to balance this. And then the goal is we control expenses so that we don't end up having to use the savings account.
Okay.
But in this budget, I think it's something close to $920,000 that we have to budget from our savings. So even though, we're technically balancing this budget with our projected revenues, we're still not necessarily able to pay for all of our expenses, operating expenses, with the revenue that we're bringing in. And that's, I'm optimistic that these numbers are conservative, and I think Tara's done a great job at projecting the revenue. But it's one of those things, when you have something as big as Simon, we have no idea what they're actually going to do in revenue, and all we can do is make assumptions, and they can give us numbers, and we can look at Allen, and we can look at Denver, Colorado. But I think the safest thing for us to do is try to be conservative on the revenue side and conservative on the expense side. And I think a lot of people would argue that we're not even being that conservative on the expense side with essentially deficit financing of like $900-some thousand. But I'm optimistic that we're not going to need any of that, and so.
Well, the only reason I say that is because if you go down to the bottom floor, and we'll just use fiscal 22, 23, which that year's over, correct?
Yeah,
And it looks like at the bottom, we're $1.5 million, $2 million under budget.
and I'm trying to look. Is this from the?
This is on the expense page.
Do you happen to know what page that is?
On my iPhone, it's 5 of 18.
Oh, boy.
I'm looking at what was sent to us before the budget committee meeting on Friday, because I haven't got it up. I didn't, that's what I was looking at.
Okay.
You're talking about FY22.
And I just assumed there wasn't a whole lot of movement in those numbers.
Yeah, because I'm looking at,
Christie's looking at those pink sheets that were in the budget committee meeting.
okay,
That's not.
yeah. Because our budget for '24 was 4.4 million, and in '23,
I'm just looking at the expense piece at the bottom, once it totals all the expenses.
yeah, and that's what I'm referring to is.
Okay, 'cause mine
the-
says something, this says something
Yeah,
different.
well, this is including all of the police fund, or all of the police accounts, which would be 311, 315, 321, 331, 562. And it was, our actual from '23 was $4 million, and our budget for '24 was 4.4. So we increased our budget, but, that's still pretty close. I'm guessing that the budget for the budget for 23 was less than 4.4. And we came, spent 3,993.
Okay.
But we do all we can with what we have, and I think that if you look at other cities of our size, we've been blessed with the best neighborhoods in Tulsa County. We've been blessed with the best schools, and probably the best Main Street, but we just haven't had the commercial development of other cities like Sapulpa, Sand Springs, Bixby, and part of it is we're so close. We're surrounded by Tulsa, Bixby, Glenpool, Sapulpa, Tulsa to the north, and so we've had these big developments on our periphery, and I think it's, obviously we get into conversations with, like we had at the town hall, where what makes Jenks Jenks, is it like we don't have the commercial development that other cities have in the city, but perhaps that makes Jenks a better place at times because, you don't have those big box stores within the city. You have to go maybe across the river or just north to Tulsa Hills. And now we're going to have a lot of those big boxes and we're going to have the income. And I know that this city council, as Craig and the mayor and others have alluded to, is 100% committed to public safety, and we're going to do everything we can. I think that the thing that I worry about is we have to be conservative up until the point we know exactly what is happening with the mall in terms of revenue and demand on public safety services. And so I don't think that, we have 5 officers. Could we have more? Sure. Can we afford more? Probably not at the moment until we understand what's going on at the mall. And even if we can't afford them, if we need them, staff will be back here in September saying we need to add more police officers. But, so just know that, I think about this nonstop.
Well, and I'm appreciative of the 5. I don't mean that. And it's just with what I've seen when we start talking about triple-digit increases in crimes just across the board. I don't think there was any type of crime that was less than 100%, once the increase happened. And, that's what I guess I was more concerned about than anything else is we are going to have 7 million new visitors. Some of those people are going to be bad actors. Some of those people are going to be wonderful shoppers that will bring great things to our city at the same time. So I know I've gone way over my 3 minutes, so I apologize, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, to your point, we'd hire 10 right now if we could. We really would. And this comes down to dollars and cents. He took a long path to tell you that if the city could afford it, we would. But I trust his instincts when it comes to the frugality of the situation is what it is. We're totally landlocked. Everybody wants to build a neighborhood here. We don't even know how we're going to stop the growth down south. Somebody's got to go out there and answer the call to 911. And if we don't build a bunch of stuff and sell a bunch of food and a bunch of T-shirts, who's going to pay for it? I'm not here to raise your taxes. Thank you, Mr. Little.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Little. The floor is still open to the public.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff.
Good evening.
I read everything.
Of course.
The one question, and I have been in contact with Ms. Kilpatrick, and for some reason, I didn't write it down.
Mrs. Montgomery, I apologize.
Oh,
We see you
yeah.
so often,
Charlotte Montgomery,
we all-
10612 South Fur Avenue.
still live in Jenks?
Still live in
All
Jenks.
right, thank you very much. Sorry,
That's fine. You were right.
you're a
Correct
regular,
me.
and we didn't ID you. We probably should have. Get this lady a drink.
I did not write down this piece of information, so my question is what is the estimated time frame for when the final budget will be posted to the city website? Wasn't that like around August? Yes. For the final, okay. And actually, she answered my question about the OTA purchase that Mr. Brown brought up. I did have a question also about the TIFs in that you're terminating TIF 2 and there had to be money in there, but I didn't see where that transaction segued over to the new TIF 6. And so she said that there would be a footnote added for that. And then we talked for a bit about, in the overview section of the top part of each one of the funds and TIFs and things like that, there's a description. And specifically with the bonds and the TIFs, I have had to do a spreadsheet to track the TIFs. It's like TIF 2 was Outlet Mall, it's terminated, then it became A, and now it's part of TIF 6. And I won't remember that 3 months from now. So I have literally a spreadsheet for that. So I made some suggestions that I will send an email to her and Mr. Schraub. Hopefully those can be easily incorporated in. And there were similar comments also about some of the TIF information. I have to every year go search for that. And I did want to compliment Ms. Kilpatrick that she was very easy to work with, and she was able to explain things to me that I'm not a finance person, but I know how to read P&Ls and things like that. So I was very appreciative of the way that she accommodated all of my questions. And just other than that, I really appreciate the new format. I think that started about 3 years ago. I remember looking through the other ones. I just kind of just went to the next agenda item, which was about 200 pages down. And so I'm very complimentary, again, that you're continuing with that. And I very much didn't enjoy the process, but it was more tolerable. So thank you very much.
And Charlotte, we submit a TIF report to the county assessor every year, and it's on like every TIF.
Yes, it's with Oklahoma Commerce Department. You can go there and get that too.
Yeah, but
I have to go look it up. Every year I have to go look it up, and it'd be nice if it was just a little bit of line up there
Is it
in
not
the
on our
overview.
website?
we have TIF updates. I'd have to look what we have on our website, but I know for a fact the assessor, so the Tulsa County assessor has every TIF in Tulsa County, how much is paid out, how much it was, how much the cap is, what it's generated, when it expires, when it was voted on, all of that. And I thought we had a link to that on our website, but
No.
I wouldn't,
No, I just Googled in Oklahoma Department of Commerce, and I have to look through every county and then go down. So like I said, if we could just like put a little line in there, but you will get a copy of obviously that email. It's not going to be long. So hopefully they'll take those into consideration.
Thank you, Mrs. Montgomery.
Good evening. Catherine Lenhart, 777 West 106th Street South in Jenks. My comment was going to be the same. It was about the tax increment financing reports, and there's a really good example. Oklahoma City provides a nice worksheet. I don't know if this is a requirement in Oklahoma. I was going to send it to you just to see if that's a way that we could see the reporting. As you know, I've asked for over a year for the businesses within the TIFs, and I still have yet to receive that list, so that we can get an idea of how many businesses are in TIFs and how many are out of the TIF districts, but to have an accounting to see if they are performing. We've been assured that the newest TIFs will perform based on new agreements, but that, just as a reminder, the original TIFs underperformed or even failed. So we would like to see that kind of information to know if TIFs are good in Jenks. So appreciate it. I don't know if you can comment to that, but thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's a response to it.
How would we determine what businesses are inside a dotted line? It seems like a manual process.
So we have the TIF reimbursement spreadsheets that show who's been reimbursed within the TIF. But, you know, if we just take, let's say, TIF 3, for instance, TIF 3 is west of Highway 75, south of 111th to what was 121st. It's been amended to something like 116th. So there's a bunch of like strip center type office warehouse uses. And so we know the developer, and usually it's the developer who is being reimbursed through the TIF. So if we pull the TIF documents, we're going to see reimbursements to the developer. The individual businesses that are generating sales tax or property tax, or sales tax largely, you know, they come and go. It may be Yamaha, it may be restaurants in there, and then comes and goes. And so it's easy for us to know who we've reimbursed and who's benefiting. But in terms of the businesses, it's a lot more difficult depending on what is actually in the TIF. Like TIF, that's actually, I said TIF 3, that's TIF 4. TIF 3 is where Gateway and the, what is that? The new hotel? Yeah. So that would be easier because you have Gateway Mortgage, you have Oklahoma Medical Eye Group, you have the hotel, you have Gateway First Bank there, you have Frontier Justice, SoCo, and that largely isn't changing, except for whatever is in the old Sutherlands that, you know, was like the Halloween store, then it was a gym, then it's something else. And so that turnover, for us to track that, I guess we can, but we really have,
Yeah, that's,
yeah.
I don't think anybody on staff is relishing the task. Yeah.
But for the outlet mall, because they will, because TIF 6, because TIF 6 is where we contribute 2 of the 3.5 pennies to the TIF, we have to, finance staff will have to manually track from the Oklahoma Tax Commission what businesses are in there, how much sales tax they're collecting, and what 56% of that is to go back into the TIF. But otherwise, we just don't have a mechanism to track individual businesses within the TIF.
And I would recommend whoever wants to take on this task, and I've asked this before, and I used the wrong word. I said TIF for dummies. I won't say that again. But if in the future we could have a link on our website that shows a map of all these TIFs, because even I, having going through all this, it's hard to remember the name of the number of which one. And frankly, we can explain what is a TIF, where are they, when do they get created, when do they expire, and frankly, this should be something that Nick, an Eagle Scout, a kid in high school, can go and say, I think I have a general idea what this is. Hey, by the way, Nick, I got a project for you. So I told you should have left a long time ago, because I told you this was not exciting. But I think literally for the sake of the folks that always ask us, nobody wants to get in a conversation about TIFs. But to your point, the TIFs that we have, it's difficult for us to assume whether they're going to be more successful than the ones that were created 20 years ago when we didn't even know what TIFs were. But I think the level of optimism is high, probably because we knew that our future was going to be essentially kickstarted by Simon Properties and all the other immense development that is planned around the city. But I think it would be very helpful if we just really shrunk it down into a couple of pages of a major, these are everything you need to know about TIFs, and here's a map if you would. If you'd like, can you come forward real quick if you have something to share?
Yeah.
It's still public hearing, so.
Sure. So if you go to
Can I have your
Elevate.
name,
Oh,
please?
Heather Turner, Jenks Chamber of Commerce. If you go to elevatejinks.com and then you click incentive, that you can then see tax increment finance districts, and then you can click to see more information, and when you do, it'll show a map of all of the current and terminated TIFs, and then information about each of them. just in case
And you-
anyone,
That's on your site, but not on the city's?
this is on the Elevate Jinx.
Yeah, we have
site.
on the finance department site TIF reports from 2023 and 2022,
Okay.
so.
Maybe if we have an opportunity to improve and do better for the sake of transparency, for the sake of not having to continue to educate people. It's a difficult topic, so let's figure out a way to water it down to the point where everybody can understand it, if that's possible. Did you have another comment? Okay, thank you. All right, the floor is still open. We are, I thought she said mail it, not email it. Is what did you say email it?
I think you said amend.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have 35% hearing disabled, so.
Since I
Thank you.
kind of backed away very quickly before I finish, I guess, to wait for your response. Yes, that is a big task to assemble the businesses. But originally, I was told that it was a spreadsheet and it was no big deal. That was the first response.
Well, I think the thought was that, I probably made that comment, and I was probably thinking of the reimbursements to developers, not thinking about like individual businesses within the buildings that the developer owns.
And I agree with you. So I think that what I could do is amend that to be kind of the spreadsheet that I'm talking about, because then it's clearer to read. So one of the things to note about TIFs is that you have economic incentives, and then you have project costs, and under project costs, you have more economic incentives. So what we're trying to say is, let's see how these incentives are paid out, and maybe it is to the developer or whatever the, like how the spreadsheet shows. It's more of a culmination, I think, of the information that Heather was pointing out. So I will take away the business list and submit this, and then put in the examples that we're looking for. And I could even talk to Charlotte and see if we're overlapping in that request. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, the floor is still open to the public. Very well. We close the floor to public comment on item number 5, and we will move on. Any other last call for council on item 5? Or do you want to wait? You can say we do it now before we get to the resolution. No? Mr. Brown?
Just a quick comment on the TIFs. I think the issue that we're looking at is, it's an ideological question that is pretty broad across the United States on development, on incentivizing business growth. And the challenge that we run into is not only looking at the businesses, but when you look at the types of businesses that come in, you may have a business that is more service-oriented versus retail and may not generate the same level of tax dollars. So I think the issue is, what's the return on investment? The question that's generally out there is it good business for municipalities to incentivize based upon what you're getting back in sales tax? And I don't know how we can do it at the TIF level, other than maybe cumulatively to look at the entire budget from a city standpoint. How many new businesses have been added, and how are we tracking on sales tax projections and budget performance?
I could get into this.
It'll be a research issue, it really is.
Done? Okay.
Do you,
If you'd like to make a comment, you work here. so you
No,
want-
so what you're talking about with, okay, service-oriented versus retail, that's how the TIFs used to be, was first in, first out. Whether you're an office user, whether you're a dry cleaner, whether you're whatever the business is, if you spend on public infrastructure, you put your application in, city engineer says this is public infrastructure, then you are the first one to be reimbursed, not just from your business, even if you're not generating any sales tax, or if your property tax is relatively low, you're still benefiting from anything else that's in the TIF, that it may be generating more property tax, may be generating more sales tax. And so what we saw is that, the first in really gobbles everything up, and then it's impossible to really use the TIF as it's intended, which is to potentially have the private sector leverage that incentive. And we also saw that, if we're trying to get retail dollars in the long term to improve our sales tax, if we have a TIF where we're just saying if you're the first in, whether or not you're doing any retail or not, you're going to get reimbursed, well, then we could be incentivizing things that aren't really our target. And so that's what we've done over the last 2 years, is say, you're not going to get what everybody produces, you're only going to get what you produce. And so then we tailor each individual economic development agreement to the concept. And so I think we've found a way, and that's why I think that it will be more successful, is that it's much more targeted, but that's.
John, were you,
I fully agree with the way
Yeah.
you've looked at it now versus
Yeah.
the way it's been done in the past.
and you'll understand this, but we're using a rifle, not a shotgun anymore on TIFs. I think we're going to do a lot better than we did historically. So, very well. Any other comments from council on item number 5? Last call, Ms. Kilpatrick, last call. Any comments from you?
I miss being in the hot seat.
That's all right. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Trout, is that it for you, sir? Yes. Okay, very well. Moving on, item number 6 is Resolution 835, appropriating and approving the fiscal year 2024 to 2025 annual budget, providing for a pay plan and benefits program for the city of Jenks, Oklahoma, and providing for an effective date of July 1st of 2024. Any questions, comments on the resolution, page 164?
Motion
Questions?
to approve.
Thank you very much. We have a proper motion and a second to approve resolution number 835, item number 6. Let's vote, please.
Emmons?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Murray?
Pass. Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item number 7.
Can we take a 5?
Say again?
Take a 5.
Yeah, we're going to request a 5-minute recess. council meeting will reconvene. Thank you for the opportunity for the quick break. We're going to wait for our next presenter to have a seat, and then we will get underway. We are currently on agenda item number 7. I'm going to talk real slow so she can get, you might as well come right up to the mic. Item number 7 is Resolution 833, a joint resolution with the Jenks Economic Development Authority amending Resolution 805, extending the Commercial Kitchen Grant Pilot Program. We are on page 122, if you are following along, and Mrs. Hilton, good evening.
Thank you, Mayor Box, council, and
182.
staff. This is page 182. I don't have a packet in front of me. I'll try to wing it. I don't have a lot to say, except that we wanted to bring the opportunity back to the council and then to JEDA to consider whether or not you want to extend the pilot program for the kitchen, commercial kitchen grant. We originally had it for 3 applicants only, and since that time, previously there was I would say a 4th one that was interested, and now possibly a 5th one. So it's really council's discretion, the direction that you want to go on that. And I don't think I have anything else. Do you have anything else?
So we've technically awarded the 3. We haven't paid out on the 3, but we have 2 more that are certainly interested. And so I think it's just, I don't think staff thinks that we're going to continue to recommend extending this potentially even again, but we have 2 more interested. And so I think, Marcia, you had said a part of the downtown master plan would include something about the sustainability or how many.
A market analysis.
A market analysis of restaurants, kitchens downtown. So I think that will inform our decision moving forward. But before that, we have these 2 that would like to move forward.
And Mr. Shrout, can the monies in this account be used to fund, market analysis and different studies as it relates to master plans and et cetera? Or I'm sorry, please.
It can, yes. And so right now, the budget that was just approved, I'm not sure if it was in Fund 10 or Fund 50, but we have money for one-time expenditures on the master plan that would include the market analysis. We could always switch it over to this account, but yes, the answer is yes.
Mrs. Hilton, in a master plan for downtown, that always would include the traffic, correct? Or?
It would not always include it.
Okay.
The staff specifically asked for a traffic analysis, and not just looking at, we have one-way, two-way, but really looking at the long-term picture, which is a little bit different from just doing a master plan. So in talking to the consultants that were interviewed, is this off the agenda item?
Yeah,
Yes,
if you don't want
okay.
to, you don't have to stray too far, but.
Sure. I just want to
reel
make
us
sure
in.
that I'm within my own
Sure.
parameters here, or your parameters. So a basic master plan wouldn't necessarily dive deep into a transportation analysis.
Okay.
And I asked for a more robust look at transportation and how everything moves and flows now, but especially how it might be impacted in the future.
Okay. And I ask that question because I'm a believer in if we have good flow of traffic and people have places to park and they feel safe driving up and down the street, I think ultimately that's a great boost to the potential for a restaurateur to want to set up shop on Main Street, Jenks. It's got to be a safe place. All right, thank you, Mrs. Hilton. We will let's switch things up here. I can open up the floor to council on my left. Anyone, we've been here before. I think every one of us, maybe not everyone was here when we initially passed this pilot program. The 1 year has expired. Staff's recommendation for 1 more year is an arbitrary number. It was just, right? It was just, the 1 year was just an arbitrary number. You guys have options of yes, no, or yes with conditions. So we'll go ahead and open the floor to my left. If anyone would like to comment, just light the mic and we'll get underway. All right, council on my right. Mrs. Ogier.
Ms. Hilton, is there and I can't remember this right off the bat, but is there a time frame in which, like if you're granted the grant, from the city, is there a time frame as to when they have to use it? Like if you have applicants, say there's 6, it's just an example, and say the 3 that are initially approved and they don't use it, when is that cutoff that you can look to the next applicants?
So once you make application, then the city has to respond within 30 days, and then you go back and forth through the contract portion. So there's timeframes for all of those, and once the contract is initiated, then you have a deadline for completion of your restaurant.
Okay, and have we reached the deadline on either one of these projects we've already approved?
One is already open, so
Right.
the social received a commercial kitchen grant, and they far exceeded any deadline. They were ready to go when they got their grant. The other 2, what was your question?
Have the
Have
other
they-
2, but are we on a deadline
No,
with the other 2?
They are, yes.
Okay.
Yep, but they're very far, they'll far exceed their deadline as well. From the time they were awarded the contract until they will be open, they should meet it easily.
Okay.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, since this is my first exposure to the structure on the JEDA, I had a couple of questions, and I think, again, there's general concerns within the public on how we incentivize business, and I think, again, part of that comes back to ROI. So do we have any idea yet what our anticipated return on investment will be from the grants versus collected tax revenue?
We have talked about it.
Yeah, so the kitchen grant is up to $250,000, and I think we have a required expenditure of a certain amount of money.
Basically, they will have had to invest a minimum of $290,000, and they can get up to $250,000.
Like a matching?
90%. So 90% is about $290,000. That's, has to be specifically for their kitchen. But we did allow heat and air and fire suppression,
Yeah,
knowing
and
that the
so
buildings are old.
I think what we anticipate is if they're generating $1 million to $2 million a year, they're generating $35,000 to $70,000 a year in sales tax, so we anticipate a 5 to 10 year payback. But again, because social's the first one and it's been open such a short time, it's tough to say, but we anticipate a 5 to 10 year at most.
So we really don't have any historical at this point. And I think that was another question kind of coming through on the evaluation, since grants are what I work with consistently. Within the staff, is it the finance team that's doing evaluation on the pro formas that are presented then by the applicants?
Well, it goes through the chamber, through planning, through finance. So there's at least 3 different eyes looking at legal, so forth.
And again, we're too new in it, again, from a standpoint of
Evaluating
payback period,
it.
5 years. If somebody fails within that period of time, then it's sunk costs for us.
And the idea is, if they do fail, now there's a kitchen in the building. So the next user is more likely than not going to be a restaurant.
Good point.
So even if they fail, the restaurant goes away, but the kitchen stays.
Okay.
also have some protections in the contract that can tell that this is where.
No, no.
I can talk loud. Is that working? Or am I just being
No.
louder? Well, I think, we have some protections in the contract as well. They provide personal guarantees from owners, and there's also a clawback provision that if they left before that 5 years, they have to pay us back.
Perfect.
You-
That
protections like
that helps, that helps.
Might be worth your time, Mr. Brown, I've just realized you weren't here when this was created, but it's a pretty rigorous process. We have had a restaurant come through and not get through the process. And we were asking for documentation that any bank would ask for, and they couldn't meet it. So we're not here to say yes. It's not a simple yes. We've had a no, it just wasn't made public. So I guess the question is for you guys that were here when JEDA was created, has it accomplished what we thought the goal was? And that's to light a fire on Main Street. And to his point, restaurant comes in, restaurant stays 4 years. it's not likely that after a commercial kitchen is installed that we're going to get doctor's office moving in at that point. So the goal was to secure the future of a sales tax generating entity, whether it's sales, retail like Cedar and Lily or Motley Market or whatever, or social, or the City Hall Steakhouse, whatever the case is those entities generate sales tax. And you know, and we've said it multiple times, that's what we need to survive long-term. So even fire suppression, it's a good investment on our part because we're noticing, I don't want to be careful here, not every business, not every building owner in Jenks is investing in their long-term survivability of their building. If one of those buildings catches on fire, they probably all do, and we lose the whole northern block of 1st through 5th Street can be gone in one night. And I think, Fire Chief, you probably crawl around in some of these old buildings, you can imagine they're giant tinder boxes and they have no real suppression system. So for the long-term future of Jenks, we saw this as an investment that not only lights a sales tax fire, but also protects the assets that we have. And, a lot of people do think those buildings are charming and everything else. And so it was a good investment on our part. The question before you tonight is, are we opening this box up again, or are we closing the box? So that's what I want you guys to think about.
I guess if we've got two that are in the funnel or potentially in the funnel, maybe closing it now would be premature. But then there's another question, do we want to extend it another year or maybe just to the end of the year?
Clarifying question, are the applications in process or are they just theoretical at this point?
So one application is in hand. I have the check, the $250 check, and the application and the supporting documents. The other one was an application with no supporting documents or minimal supporting documents with a letter that they could take from the city to their financing agency. But we have not, I would say it's not really in the process.
Okay.
It's hopeful, but
Mr. Murray?
If we're looking at yes or no extending it, I'd say let's at least give it another year try. I think once people see, or a business sees that we kind of mean what we say, hey, we've got something here for you. If you meet the criteria, we're willing to help you. And it's not necessarily a building and they will come, but we, as the mayor says, we're open for business. And we're showing people we're open for business, we're going to help you out if you meet our criteria. And we're doing this by the social coming in and providing for them and others that are applying, that I think we should still give it another year to at least give them a shot at it.
I agree, Greg. I think it's a little too early to tell, to pull it. So we've been saying that a long time about downtown, that just, it's not really, the ball's not rolling really yet to see results.
I'm confident in the safeguards. It's not just a wide open, yes, here's your money. So I think we have a nice stringent, rigorous process in place. So I like it.
Any thought to just amending the deadline? The year is an arbitrary amount of time.
John had said to the end of this year.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it sounds
I
like.
guess that question to me, is that enough time for them to get all their ducks in a row? 6 months?
I think, knowing the one that has received the letter, I would defer to Mr. Stroud. He may know more than I know.
I would say, we may not come back to you after a year, but if we only have 6 months, I would anticipate that we could be coming back to you in December to extend it another 6 months. So I think if we're going to do it, I think our preference would be a year from today.
And I guess the only reason I offered that was maybe from the standpoint that we'll have the downtown master development plan in place, and that would give us a better market analysis to look at. But I'm okay either way.
Anyone else?
Well, specifically, I don't know, if you're saying a year from today, should we want to just say a year from the first meeting in July of next year? Just to give them a full year or whatever. I mean,
You can make any motion you want. If we get a second, we can do. If we don't, we can
Okay, then
continue to work until we get a second, yeah.
I'll make the motion then, if we're going to keep this alive, which I would like to see, that we keep it open, under consideration until the first meeting in July of 2025.
Second.
Point of order, would it be appropriate, inappropriate, with a motion on the floor, to hear from the chamber?
Before we do that, is that an acceptable motion?
July 1st, I think, is what you prefer.
July 1st might be a little cleaner, if that sounds.
Okay, then if I rephrase it, retract it, how about for the last meeting in June of 2025? That'll keep it within the year not the calendar year, but the fiscal year?
Why don't we just hold off on that motion? I think
Okay,
we'll
I'll
go
retract
for a
the
date,
motion.
and we'll invite Mrs. Turner, if you'd like to make a comment, please.
I'm going to make a clarifying statement or question, I guess, for you all to consider. Is it 1 year that you will accept applications, or within 1 year that they would need to have the project begin? You may want to consider how we word that, because we could accept an application next July 1st, and then they have another year to
Is this a slippery slope? Because 1 year, we could have 7 people apply. Is
So,
this resolution specifically authorized 2 applicants? It does, so that safeguard is in there?
so the safeguard makes that clear.
2 additional applicants for 1 year.
And that would be the application date, because the policy and the contract
Okay.
itself provide a deadline
The-
for finishing the project.
So is everybody clear on that? Just to make sure everybody knows. And so those 2 applicants, should they get complete applications that get through all of the steps like we were talking about, they qualify and get approved, then we would be done. Okay, just making sure.
So I'd say, back to your motion, let's just, if July 1st is the date you want, I would just specify that date.
Okay. July 1st of 2025.
Oh, let's start over for the record.
Oh, make a motion that we retain this process and that we have the application process and availability of this funding go until July 1st of 2025, at which time we can always look at it to see if we want to extend it.
I'd suggest you
No, no.
move to approve the
Resolution.
resolution and amend it to extend it to July 1, 2025.
So moved. Easier for you to say thank you.
Second.
We have a proper motion and a second on item 7. Vote, please.
Emmons,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
No. Item number 8 is the award a professional engineering contract for the design of multimodal trail along the west bank of the Arkansas River from the north limit of Jenks to approximately 104th Street to Garver, LLC, out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, in an amount not to exceed $772,700. Funding for the same is provided in the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget, coming out of account number 337505393, also known as the Jenks Vision Tax Projects Trail Connection to Riverwalk Crossing. We are on page 197, and we welcome Mr. Cloyd.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council and staff, we start off on this item, to give a little bit of history. So April 22nd, NCOG and Muskogee Nation submitted an application for the Tulsa Jenks Multimodal Safety Project as part of the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. I'll say RAISE from here on, that will cover that acronym. NCOG was awarded this project and entered into an agreement with the Federal Highway Administration on January 3rd of this year. NCOG is responsible for the management of the construction of this project, and the city of Jenks is a beneficiary of this project. So the project will provide a multimodal trail system that separates bicycles and pedestrians from motorized traffic along the west bank of the Arkansas River. City of Jenks is responsible for the design and construction of the trail from the north city limits on the west side of the Arkansas River to the Riverwalk crossing at 96th Street, and then from 96th Street to approximately 104th Street, where the low water dam crossing is to be constructed. Within the memo for this, you can see the federal funding for the project. The city's portion of the federal funding will be funded or paid through the Vision Sales Tax Fund. So in order to build the project, we've got to design the project. So in order to design the project that I just talked about, there's a list of steps that took place for the selection process of the design firm, and it was in accordance with Oklahoma Statutes Title 61, Section 62J. I won't go through all those steps, but I will point out a couple of key steps. The letter of, first of all, the City of Jenks partnered with the City of Tulsa in the selection process because we wanted to have a consistent design firm for both phases, even though I'm not talking to you tonight about a project that has anything to do with Tulsa's part. This is just about Jenks's part and just their design. So the design and the construction we're dealing with here, nothing for the city part or the Tulsa part. But anyway, we wanted some consistency in design between the different parts of this overall project. The letter of interest and statement of qualification letter was mailed out to 172 firms, and that's the number of firms that Tulsa has on their list on professional consultants, and only one firm, and that is Garver, submitted a response. So that made the selection process fairly easy. The City of Tulsa Professional Consultant Services Selection Committee, which Jenks was part of, met on June 26, 2023 and recommended the selection of Garver. There's a listing also of things that are in the scope of services within the memo, and then a listing of the different phases and the proposed costs for those fees, with an overall cost for all services of $772,700. City attorney has worked with Garver in the past on coming at language that both the city and Garver can agree upon, and the attached contract reflects the agreed upon language by both parties. So staff requests to award a professional engineering contract for the design of the multimodal trail along the west bank of the Arkansas River to Garver in the amount not to exceed $772,700. I'll entertain questions, and then also the consultant is here if you have anything that goes into a little too much detail. We can ask them to come up and answer questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Cloyd. What's the, from beginning to end, assuming we approve this, when can we expect a finished product?
Well, we have to have the funds spent by, I believe, sometime in 2029. So that means construction has to have taken place, design and construction. So we're looking within the next year to 2 years, I believe, to get the design done.
Okay.
And I don't know if I included that in here or not. I think the
There's a
schedule
Gantt
was
chart on
included.
the
Yeah.
back page, there's a Gantt chart.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Very well. We'll open the questions from Mr. Cloyd from
So,
council on my
yeah,
right.
yeah. On the, I'm sorry.
You're right. I actually,
July 2025
yeah.
is what they're showing.
Okay.
If we get started here soon.
my apologies. I knew the answer to that question, and I read it down in my head and answered it myself. Any questions for Mr. Cloyd from council on my right? All right, council on my left. Gentlemen, any questions? All right, any questions for Garver?
Will Garver guarantee that our site is better than
Of
Tulsa?
course they will. They're right back there. They have to.
It's
We're
got to
not
be
gonna
better
let
than
them
Tulsa,
leave.
that's all.
Gotta be, well, that's why we went with a consistent firm, but,
Why don't we go ahead and give Mr. Cloyd a break? We'll invite the gentleman from Garver up, and we'll make him stay in there for 3 minutes and let him go back home. Thank you, Mr. Cloyd. All right, gentlemen. Congratulations on being one out of 172 that decided to answer the call.
Thank you very much.
I guess we're bound together forever.
Yes, sir. We're excited about the opportunity.
Good. Any questions for the consulting firm Garver while they're here? So I did make him walk up here for no reason. I'm very, very sorry, sir.
Thank you very much.
Hey, well, since you're here, has the Tulsa City Council already gone through this approval process?
Their professional consulting selection committee has approved it, and we have executed the contract on Garver's end, and it is going through their legal approvals at
Okay.
this time.
Okay, very well. Well, congratulations, we appreciate you.
Thank
At
you
some
very much.
point, we'll figure out where we can put this trail. who owns the land, and we'll get underway. Right, Keith?
Since in this, what I sensed was a spirit of competitiveness there. So yes, we will finish before Tulsa on getting this design
Okay,
contract
okay.
approved.
Yeah.
So
We don't have
we'll
the
be faster.
layers of bureaucracy that they do.
Exactly. We're agile. We
Yeah,
can
yeah.
get things done.
I know. Mayor Bynum only works 40, 50 hours a week, so I don't know how you're going to get his attention. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Cloyd. Last call from council for Mr. Cloyd while we have him here. Very well. Thank you, sir. Then we'll close up on item number 8, and we can entertain a motion if you would like to do so, please.
Make a motion to approve number 8 as written.
Second.
Thank you both. We have a proper motion and a second on item 8. Let's vote, please.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, sir. Item number 9 is Resolution 831, requesting the Indian Nations Council of Governments to program Tulsa Urbanized Area Transportation Funds for consideration of funding in federal fiscal year 2022 to 2024 for extension of the North 5th Street Sidewalk Resolution. We're on page 231, and Mr. Cloyd.
Mr. Mayor and members of council and staff, what I'd like to do is take the next 2 items and kind of talk about them together. They're both for TAP projects or Transportation Alternative Program projects. We've got another round of funding that's opened up. So city staff has come up with a couple of projects that we're proposing to be funded. There's different categories for funding, and out of the categories that are listed in both this memo and the memo for the next agenda item, there's 3 different areas where these projects fall under. Some of them dealing with just construction planning and design for a trail or a pedestrian way that's not along a street, and then some of those are for reasons of constructing something that'll help those that are disabled or those that are needing to get to school in an easier way, safe routes to school. So those are the reasonings. For the projects, the federal funding can be to a maximum of $1,200,000 per project, and a minimum of 20% of the total project cost must be provided as a local match. The applications for both this project and the next project that I'll describe to you were submitted to INCOG by the deadline of May 31st of this year, and the supporting resolutions are due before July 1st of this year. So let me describe the project for the first project, and that's the North 5th Street Sidewalk Extension Project. That project consists of extending a new 5-foot sidewalk from the 5-foot wide sidewalk from the northeast corner of the Jenks High School campus east on East F Street to North 5th Street. So from the high school going east to 5th Street, and then from the end of the sidewalk on the west side of the Jenks Public School baseball field, south along the east side of North 3rd Street to F Street, and then from the Jenks Public School golf facility, which is on 5th Street, south along the west side of North 5th Street to East B Street. So the purpose of this project is to provide a safer alternative for students and citizens to travel between Jenks Public School facilities as well as other city amenities such as City Hall, Tulsa County Library, and stores and restaurants along East Main Street. The total cost of this project has been estimated to be $551,226, which includes fees for design engineering. Federal funding is being requested in the amount of 80% of that, which is $440,980.80. No funds are requested to be appropriated at this time, since the projects will still need to be approved by INCOG. So a requirement for the application is to attach a resolution from the governing body indicating support for this project and a commitment of the non-federal matching funds and ongoing maintenance of the proposed project. So are there any questions about this project before I move on to kind of talk about the next one?
Thank you, Mr. Cloyd. So you're asking for a $110,000 commitment so we can draw those red lines on the map?
So you can put in sidewalks
Yeah,
where those red lines
on those red
are.
lines,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Perfect. Any questions from council?
Appreciate,
Brown.
yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Want to appreciate Mr. Cloyd's work on this, especially for the extension of sidewalks for F Street and North Fifth. And I'm not asking for any amendments on it, just an observation. One of the areas of kind of a residual concern is the curve at K Place going into Fifth Street is a very dangerous curve. The shoulder is steep. And I know that we've extended the sidewalk on K Place is all the way down to the tracks, and I know that they're part of a development that we did with Kern Construction a few years ago is going to extend the sidewalk where we've got the sidewalks all the way north on Elm now to get that connected. Concern that I have is I know that CrossFit, all of their people are using the street where the sidewalk ends at, I think, 3rd Street. So they're running up the curve, and I know that the Jenks track team is also running that curve. I don't know if there's a way, again, I don't want you to amend this, but maybe there's a way we could work with Jenks Public Schools to try to get a right-of-way to cut across the ball field. I don't know if there's a way we can extend the sidewalk.
And
but
just some.
There's a gap there.
Yeah, and so historical knowledge, the school applied for, might have been an SUP or a PUD before me, so before 2015, to make improvements to the ball field and the parking lot there. And they requested that they not be required to put in the sidewalk. And so that's why there's not a sidewalk, is because, to my knowledge, Jenks Public Schools didn't want to pay for that and dedicate the right-of-way. But I think that we would be more than happy to approach them again and talk about that this is an issue that we'd like to see resolved long-term. And so while it may not be a part of this project, yes, we will work on getting that all connected, both by the curve on the east side and on the west side, past the railroad tracks.
Yeah, and I recognize that there, with the trails coming through, that curve might turn into an intersection. There may be some changes, so you don't want to necessarily build something that we have to tear down later on. But I just wanted to make sure that council was aware that that is still a safety issue for pedestrians.
That's the levy, right? Is that the levy,
Yes,
right?
it's
Okay.
levy. I was hoping that I'd get a thank you, Mr. Cloyd, for, you said, I want a sidewalk here, and you've already asked for funding for it, so. No, but yeah, that's definitely, and keep coming up with those ideas of what the residents in your ward want, and we'll keep considering how can we get those funded and get those put in.
Well, these TAP grant opportunities are available every year, are they not?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I seem to remember we did a pretty good job of the last few, so.
Thank you.
Just as a reminder, we're not committing funds to this. There's still an opportunity, we have to be awarded this, but if so, looks like we're on the hook for $110,000 for quite a bit of sidewalk, so. Any other questions for Mr. Cloyd?
More just a comment from me.
Mr. Emmons?
With 2 lacrosse players in my family, frequent this field a lot. Both of those players also play football at JAA, so both of these projects I'm very excited about, and I appreciate your work.
Good, good.
Thank you, Mr. Emmons. Anything further from council? All right, we can.
Let me go ahead
yes, sir.
and, if
You want to do the next?
I'll let you guys vote on these separately.
Sure.
And, but I'll go ahead and describe the next project that is for Resolution 832 is Park West Trail Extension Project. And this consists of installing a new 10-foot wide trail from the Park West Dog Park around the west side of the football practice field, north along the bank of the Polecat Creek, and connecting to the Leon Red Earp Nature Trail, and then continuing north along the west side of Coa Street to Main Street. And then from Main Street, we're going to extend west along the south side of Main Street to the southeast corner of the Main Street and Elwood Avenue intersection. So the purpose of this project is to provide a connection between 3 different trail systems in Jenks. One being the West 101st Street Trail System that we recently constructed that goes from Elm Street to Bark West, sorry. And then there's the Elwood Avenue Trail System, which is a future trail system, and then the existing Leon Red Earp Nature Trail System. The cost of this project has been estimated at $1 million, $1,022,129, and that also includes design fees for that as well. The federal funding of that part would be $817,703.20, and the matching contribution for the city would be $204,425.80. Again, no funds are requested at this time, and this is, again, early estimate for the costs of this. As it gets into design, we'll get more detailed design estimates, and when we're ready to come before, if we get awarded this project and we get to the design phase and we're ready to move forward with construction, we'll be asking for the money both for the design contract as well as the construction money. So any questions on this project?
Any questions for Mr. Cloyd? All right. Gentlemen, any?
Actually, I do have one.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Emmons.
Behind the football field, how close to existing tree line is this going to go? Do you not know that yet because of design?
Don't know
Okay.
that yet.
Just wanted to know how much it's going to eat up of that space.
Conceptual, so.
Okay, gotcha.
yeah. And we've also got the bank on Polecat that we'll have to contend with and make sure it's in good enough shape if we, and do some kind of investigation potentially on how stable it is for a trail to go back there and that kind of thing.
Well, how long do you think this red line is, Mr. Cloyd? Just best guess. It's over a mile, isn't it?
I would guess that, just a little over a mile.
Yeah.
Maybe a mile and a quarter.
Wow. Very cool.
But you're also connecting to other trail
Yeah.
systems that, for the one, at 101st, it goes on into the one that goes around all the way over to the aquarium and then up to the pedestrian bridge, which then goes off across to
Yeah.
Tulsa to their system.
Was this
So-
your idea?
No, I think that was Mr. Carr's idea.
Oh.
I think this was one of his
Good job, Mr. Carr.
ideas, so.
This is a nice trail. Very good. All right, last call from council. Any questions for Mr. Cloyd? Very well. Thank you very much. Then we will, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. We are back to item 9. This is Resolution 831, requesting Indian Nations Council of Governments approve Tulsa Urbanized Transportation Funds for consideration of funding in the fiscal year 2022-2024 for the extension of the North Fifth Street sidewalk resolution as previously stated.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 831.
Second.
Thank you both very much. Proper motion and a second on item 9. Vote, please.
Emmons,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Klein. Yes. Mayor Box.
Yes, item 10, Resolution 832, which is for the Park West Trail extension.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you both very much. Proper motion is second. Item 10, vote, please.
Emmons,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Klein. Yes. Mayor Box.
Yes, item 11 is potential executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development, including the transfer of property or the creation of a proposal to entice a business to locate within the city of Jenks, where public disclosure of the matter discussed would interfere with the development of products and/or services or would violate the confidentiality of the business pursuant with state statute. We're going to be talking about the aquarium campus and city-owned property on Main Street. We do need a motion and a second and approval to enter executive session.
Motion to go into executive session?
Second.
Thank you both very much. Let's vote, please.
Emmons,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, the time is 7:53. We will be back as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience. Time is 8:08. Who? Oh my goodness gracious.
They didn't take advantage of the 5-minute break. Apparently not.
Your patience, the time is 8:20. Council has returned from executive session. No votes were cast. We are going to move on to other business. Starting off with number 1 is our city manager's report. Mr. Shroud.
Mayor and all members of council, sales and use tax increased by 2.5% from the previous month's deposit. However, it was a decrease of over 12% from the same month the previous year. Engineering projects, we have the C Street sidewalk. Staff has selected a right-of-way agent, and acquisition of temporary construction easement should begin soon. The A Street and 2nd Street parking lot, the contractor has begun excavation of the parking lot and has poured most of the curb and gutter. Main Street, weather permitting, Ellsworth Construction, ODOT's contractor will close the south legs of Date Street and Main Street intersection and the Cedar Street and Main Street intersections, I believe this week for 2 days, 7 a.m. on June 10th to 5 p.m. on June 11th, to grade and prepare for paving operations, and additionally on Wednesday, June 12th, for 2 days. Economic Development, City and Chamber staff are reviewing incentive requests for 2 projects, an Asian Fusion restaurant on Main Street and another Asian Fusion concept and medical spa on the river south of the Turnpike. City and Chamber staff are working with the owners of the River District, the land surrounding the Simon Outlet Mall, on a potential major entertainment development. City and Chamber staff continue to work with Sooner Investment and the brokers representing the property owners on the 50-acre retail development at 121st and Highway 75. Therese and I met with the Persimmon Group to discuss their proposal for an employee survey this morning. We will be reviewing the proposal and will be moving forward, providing a survey to employees this summer. Upcoming events, we have the Jenks Chamber elected officials reception, Tuesday, June 11th from 4 to 6 at Sidecar. The Jenks Chamber morning mingle on Thursday, June 13th from 8:30 to 9:30 at Jenks Restaurant. And then the bowling for business is Thursday, June 20th from 2 to 5 at Andy B's. If you would like to attend the bowling for business, please let Sarah Tackmel know. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stroud. Any questions for Chris?
You gotta get one together. You're not gonna beat my team. It doesn't matter.
All right. Thank you for all the smack talking here. We'll replace committee reports. We'll call this council comments. Anyone from council have anything they want to address before we wrap up city council meeting? You can call it new business if you like. All right, mayor's report. All I would say to you is I had a few things to discuss, but we'll shelve them for a lighter agenda. House district, our House district is up for grabs, so is our Senate district, and a former mayor of Jenks, who you guys all know is running for county commission. So I would encourage all of you to pay very close attention to the three major elections that affect all of us. Election day is June 18th, if I'm not mistaken. There is a lot of events happening this week and next week, so if you're looking for an opportunity to connect and be a part of those debates, get a hold of me or anyone on city staff, and we will let you know when and where those will be. So good opportunities there, lots of potential turnover there. That is it for me. The time is 8:25 p.m., and we will adjourn the Jenks City Council. I'm assuming we do not need any more breaks. Let's find door number 2. What do we got next, JEDA? Okay. All right, let's move on to, in the spirit of the discussion of incentives, we will go to the special meeting of the Jenks Economic Development Authority. Today is Tuesday, June 4th of 2024. The time is 8:25 p.m. Let's call to order, please.
Emmons?
Here.
OJ?
Here.
Murray?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Klein?
Present.
Short? Mayor Box?
Here. Item number 1, tonight's business is the consideration of appropriate action relating to our consent agenda. If any council member would like to pull one of these items, we may, or you can make a motion to pass them as they are presented.
Motion to approve?
Thank you both very much. We have a proper motion and a second to approve item 1, tonight's consent agenda. Let's vote, please. Mr. Macy.
Emmons?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes?
Klein?
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes. Item 2, we pull. Any other business? Mr. Shroud, anyone else?
No, sir.
All right, the time is 8:26 p.m. We will adjourn the Jenks Economic Development Authority special meeting. Charlotte's decided JPWA is not exciting enough for her. Adios, Mr. She knows her stuff. Moving on. Jenks Public Works Authority meeting, roll call, please.
Emmons?
Here.
OJ?
Here.
Murray?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Klein?
Present.
Short? Chair Box?
Here, underway at 8:27 p.m. Item number 1 is the consideration and appropriate action of tonight's consent agenda. Any questions on our consent agenda? If not,
Request to pull, to approve pulling item B for
you
comment.
better call Charlotte back here. You really messed this whole thing up.
Sorry.
Say again?
A motion to approve pulling item B for a comment.
Second.
All right, we have a proper motion second to approve item 1 with the exception of B. Let's vote, please.
Emmons?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Chair Box?
Yes. Item B, approve encumbrances and expenditures. Mr. Brown, what's on your mind?
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. Just a personal, professional practice when I'm sitting on boards or committees. I had a reimbursement expense on page 28 of 142 for travel to DC, and the expense was for airfare and accommodations. Submitted a report to the Finance Department for reimbursement, and I submitted a written report to both the mayor and the city manager on the activities of that trip. Just a matter of transparency, since my name is on the list.
I think I denied your request. Just kidding. Well, very well. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anything else, sir?
Nope.
All
Thank you,
right.
sir.
Back to item B. Let's have a motion on a B.
Make a motion to approve item B.
Second.
Thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Vote, please.
Emmons?
Yes.
OJ?
Yes.
Murray?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Chairbox?
Yes. Item 1, General Manager's Report. Mr. Shroud, last comments, questions?
The report is in the packet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Shroud? Very well. The time is 8:28 PM. We appreciate you being here tonight.